Hi there and welcome to the next video. I said in the last one I would show you how I've been using an art package, a free download called GIMP. I think a lot of people are familiar with it, but I'm going to show you what I've done. I've only just got started with it, downloaded it for the first time last week and watched a couple of YouTube videos, and I've learnt enough to draw the graphics, and I've labelled this one as part 22A. It's not really part of the sequence of setting up Microsoft Flight Simulator, so it really is a second part of setting up the Stream Deck. So let me show you what I'm going to try and achieve today. So a bit of planning on constructing the gauge, knowing the sizes and shapes and where you want to put things, that really helps. So I'm working on a graphic that is 144 pixels square. That's the size that scales down nicely onto the keys on the Stream Deck. So I'm going to draw my actual gauge at a maximum width of 130 pixels. Well, that's what I want to finish up with, but drawing on something that small is actually quite difficult. So what I'm really going to do is I'm going to make it 4 times bigger. I'm going to draw on a canvas that's 576 wide and draw my graphic at 520 pixels wide, centered on that. So that's what I'm going to do, 576 wide and 420 for the actual graphic. And then at the end I can resize it down to 144 pixels. Okay, so let's have a quick look at GIMP and see how that works. So I've not really played much with GIMP. I haven't changed any settings particularly. It was literally downloaded last week, so I haven't done any major changes to it. There is so much to this program. It's unbelievably clever and complex, and hidden keys everywhere. So YouTube really comes to your rescue here. So there's a toolbox, and it hasn't really got very many drawing tools. It's got a pencil that also does brushes and things like that. And straight away you need a key press to get to the P. Press P for paintbrush and A for airbrush. But we're going to stick with the pencil for nearly all of this. And even the selection icon, there's an ellipse select tool and a rectangle select tool, and you move between them using key presses. So it's very key press heavy. But anyway, let's start with a new file. So new, and I wanted it to be 576 wide, so 576 pixels wide. And the same for the height, 576. There is an advanced option here. If you need to have a transparency, you can fill the background straight away with a transparency. I don't need one here, so I just really need it to be filled with the background colour, and the colours are here. There's my foreground colour, there's my background colour, so it will fill with black, which is what I need. So I don't need any transparencies on this layer. So fill the background colour. Okay, that, and straight away I've got this area to draw with. Now down here is where you get a lot of information. When you're drawing things, you can see your exact coordinates as you're moving the mouse around, and you can see various things change here, context led. So what I'm going to do, if I remember, is I've created an extra window to bring that onto the screen so that you can see. Hopefully that's a bit better for you to see rather than the small bit down there. I've got it sort of magnified here. Over here I've magnified it. So I hope that you can see that, and I have to remember to take that on and off as appropriate. But I do get carried away and forget to do that. So right, first things first. What we really need is a guide. You can pull a guide from the top and from the side and put that into position. And I need a guide at the center point, which is 288. So you can just drag it down, and you can see in the information bar it says add guide, and you can see that it's getting towards the 288 mark, and you can let go and it puts it there. Or you could go to image and guide and put a new guide in, and you can decide, well, I want a vertical guide and I want it to be at 288, and it will put it there exactly, so you don't have to drag and drop. You can put things exactly where you want them using various things from the menu system here. Okay, so if we remember on our PowerPoint, what we wanted to do was to have this arc here, this circle here, 520 pixels across. So there isn't a circle drawing tool. There is a circle, an ellipse select tool, and what you really do is you create select an area of the screen and then tell it what to do with it. So that's what we're going to do. And there's a couple of options I have changed here. The first one, the one that really attracted me, the one that was missing from my art package, was this idea of expand from center. My art package did this. If I try to draw a circle, it draws and drags from the corner, so getting things in the middle, getting things centered up was quite difficult. This one's nice, it actually snaps to the guide. My art package wouldn't do that. So this one expands from the center, that's handy. So if I start drawing from the center, I know that it's centered straight away. It's from the center of where I press my mouse, so I can line things up quite nicely. So that is useful to have switched on. The other thing I've turned off is anti-aliasing and feathering the edges. Feathering the edges is great when you're doing photo retouching and drawing and artwork kind of stuff, so it gives you nice soft edges. And anti-aliasing also does some softening of the edges. The anti-aliasing, you've probably seen it. If I draw a white circle, it will use grey pixels on the edges to kind of smooth it into the background. And I don't want that. I want it to be, when I paint white, I want it to be solid white. So no marks here that are going to make the edges fuzzy. That's what I'm after. Okay, so I'm going to select an area and I'm going to fill it with white. And it had to be 520 pixels across. So go into the center, left hand button down and hold, and as you can see it would draw an ellipse or a circle. To constrain it to a circle, hold down the shift key. Now you hold down the shift key after you started moving, you don't hold it down at the beginning. Start moving, then hold the shift key down, and if you look at the information bar you can see it says an ellipse, it's 390, and I want to get to 520 and let go. So I've got an area here that's been selected. That's the circle that's selected. So anything that happens will happen within that circle. What I really want to do is to fill it with the foreground. So edit, fill it with foreground, and if you're doing this repeatedly it's worth getting to know these shortcuts. So Control and comma fills it with the foreground. That's the foreground colour, so it's filled with white. Okay, so that's got that started. We've managed to make a circle of the right size. Let's go back and look at the next bit of construction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to construct it by drawing a black circle and then another white circle and then another black circle, all the right diameters, so that it creates this effect, so it will look like the gauge. So this one here is going to be 10 pixels wide, and the gap will be 10 pixels wide, and then this last one here will be 20 pixels wide. So I need to move in 20, make the diameter smaller by 20 pixels, by 20 pixels, and then by 40 pixels to make this work. So let's bring the drawing package back up again. And let's draw the next circle. So again, it's an ellipse and it's going to start in the center. Now at the moment it will only work in this area here, so what I really need to do is to change the selection. I need to deselect this circle and select the entire image. So it's select all, it's select the boundary around the outside of the image, and again a keyboard shortcut worth getting to know, speeds things up, Control A, and now we've got the whole canvas back for us to work with. So from the center, start moving, hold down the shift and constraining it, and so it was at 520, so I need to move into 500, and I want to fill with background. So that is the edit, fill with background, and it's Control full stop, Control period for Americans, and it's now filled up with black. So I've got the outside white circle, And we'll do the same again. We'll change the selection. We'll make sure we've got the whole thing selected. So Control A, we have now selected the entire canvas, and we draw another ellipse. Making sure it's a circle. So that was at 500. We now need to be at 480. And this time I'm going to fill it with white. So that's Control and comma for fill with foreground. And now the last one, another ellipse. But this time, whoops, this is what happens if you don't do the Control A. Select the entire canvas. Move, Shift, and this should be moving to 440. And this is filled with background. So we've created the rings that we want. And let's go back and have a look at the next bit of PowerPoint. So having done that, I need to cut this arc out, and it's 20 degrees on both sides that we need to cut out. And let's show you how we do that. Control A, make sure we've got the whole of the canvas selected, and this time I will be using a pencil tool. So if I click once in the middle and then start to move, if I hold down the Shift key, it starts to draw a phantom line, and I don't know if you can see in the information bar, it does tell you the angle you're drawing at. So from here we're at 180 degrees, and we need to move 20 degrees around, so we've been moving it to 200. But if I let go now, it will draw a line right the way across my image. I don't really want that. I only need a line drawn across that piece of white and that piece of white there. So what I want to do is select these two circles, these two arcs. So if I use the magic wand here, I can select that one. I don't know if you can see the marching ants around here, and shift and select that one. So I've got those two selected. So when I draw, although the line will appear from here, it can only draw over the active areas. So that's useful. But you drawing in whites will be no use to me. I won't see it as it crosses here. So I'm going to choose a different colour. So I'll choose a strong red so it shows up. So I'll use my pencil tool, and I'm going to work it at 2 pixels wide so it comes out clearly on your screen. It only needs to be 1 pixel wide really, but we'll do 2. So let's try that again. If I click in the center, start moving, hold down the Shift key, and then I watch the angle that I'm drawing at, and I want to get as close to 200 degrees as possible. And it's really hard to, that's close enough. We're only drawing a little graphic to go on a key, so 0.1 degree will be fine. So click, and it's drawn the red line, and it's just caught those two. And we do the same on the other side. So click, move, shift, and watch the angle. So it's at 0 at the moment, 10, and when we get to 340, that'll be the 20 degrees I need. Click, and it's drawn across there. So that's what I need to do. And what I want to do now is to fill that area. So we can fill this and fill this. So let's clear the selection. What I can do now is I can select this using the magic wand, and it will select that area by colour. So I can select that, and I can select this as well. So hold the Shift and select it. Those two areas are selected. So if I press delete, it cuts them out. It still leaves the selection mark. So again, Control A selects the entire image, and it's cut those out. So we've made some progress. We've got the outside part part of the gauge. So a few little bits to tidy up. We could do that at the end. So what's next in our construction? So if we bring PowerPoint back into play, that's all constructed. Next is working out where this green arc should be for the propeller, the sort of most efficient part for your RPM for your propeller. We know that that was 2100 RPM, and we know that this is 220 degrees all the way around the circle. So we need to know the angle from there, from the 0 to there. That's what we're trying to find out, what angle, how many degrees that is. And the maths is pretty simple. All the way around is 220 degrees, and it's 3000 RPM to get all the way around. So divide one by the other, then multiply it by the 2100 we want to get to, and that tells us it's 154 degrees from here. So if that is 154 degrees, well, from that horizontal, that is 134 degrees that way, or 46 degrees that way. And that one's that's the one we really need to know, because we're going to work from there and work our way up. But that works fine. So let's go and see that in the drawing package, let's see that in operation. So it's pretty much the same as we did before. I only want to draw on this arc here, so I use my magic wand and select that, so I can only draw on the selected parts. I'm going to use my pencil, and it's a green section that we're drawing, so let's change the colour to green, and we use the tool in exactly the same way as before. We start in the centre, move, hold down the shift, and then we watch the angle that we're drawing at, and I want to go around 47 degrees. So 46 degrees. 46 degrees. So you can see it building up now. 45.5. Now I'm going to get close to 46. So terrible when people are watching. 46.01. Yeah, we'll go with that. Click. And there's my green line. Okay, so now we need to work out where it ends. Where does this arc end? So back into PowerPoint again. And we do the same calculation again. 220 divided by 3000. Multiply this now by 2500 RPM, and we find the uplift here is 17 degrees. So, because it's 183 degrees all the way around, 163 from that. These are 17 here. So that's where we're going. So let's bring that in. And exactly the same tool again. Make sure the area you want to draw in is selected still. So I'm going to go and just make absolutely sure that we have selected that area to draw on. And back in the pencil. Click, move, hold down shift, and swing it around to 17 degrees. Oh, that was close. That was close. Yeah, I'll do. Click, and there's the sector. And guess what? We can now fill that with green. Done. Okay, last bit to do is where are the red lines? So my red line is at 2700 RPM. Same calculation, 220 divided by 3000 multiplied to 2700, 198 degrees from here, or 178 degrees from here, leaves us a whole 2 degrees to draw. Okay, well, that's easy. We can do that. So back in the drawing package. And that I still see that's still selected, so we just need to change our foreground colour now to make sure we've got red. Okay, and pencil tool, and we're going to just move that up 2 degrees. And it's this last bit here we want to fill, so we fill from here to there, and let's change the selection, and there we are, that's looking fine. The last little bit, if you look closely at the actual gauge itself, is that there are 2 little end stop bars here to draw. So that's easy, they're drawn in white, and what I'm going to do is just draw with a pencil. I just draw it from the centre to here, and then I will cover it with a black circle. So let's start here, hold down the shift key to move it out, and we'll just draw it so it butts up against there. We can just do that visually, butt it up against the end, click, done. And we'll do the same on the other side. Butt it up gently, click, done. And I'm just going to cut it out there. And the quickest way to do that is just to get a circle from the centre. Let's try again. Here we go. Hold down the key and just pull it out till you think it's going to cut enough of the line off, and fill it with the background colour. So that's it, that's the gauge drawn, and I really ought to save that somewhere. I should have saved right from the beginning, but old habits die hard. So when we save it, let's put it, what have I got? Yeah, my demo, there's my demo folder. So let's put it in there. This is my rev counter, and I usually put the fact that it's 576, I put the resolution on it so I know which version I've got, 576, and save that. Because what I said I'd do is I'd resize this back to 144, which is scale image, so image, scale image, and I'm going to put that to 144, and I've used this link to make sure that they both change at the same time, and we can rescale that. So that's it, that's its new size. So let's do a save as. So at the moment it's saving it as its own proprietary file type, it can't be used anywhere. We'll just change the resolution here. So we now need to export this as a PNG. So File, Export, and it's really just based on the extension at the end of it. And I think it kind of expects you, it kind of remembers, but you can select here all the different file types that it's got. There's loads of file types to go out, but I'm putting out as a PNG. So using that file extension, PNG, export, and I'm not worrying with any of these, I'm not using anything strange, so we can just export that, and that's done, job done. So if we look into that folder, these are the 2 XCF files, just their own proprietary files. It's got all the history and everything that you did, and there's the PNG. So if I change the view on that, extra large icons, there it is, that's what I've drawn, and that's what will go into my Stream Deck. So I hope that helps. Last thing to say is, of course, we need to draw the pointer, which is just a straight line and a little, so you can use the pencil to do that, and you know that you can work out for yourself the actual proportions we need to get that to go to the end. But it does need a transparent background, so if I was doing that I would go File, New, and 576 by 576, and I'll straight away start it with a transparency. So put the guides in and then draw from the center and draw the pointer, and again export it as a PNG. So that's it really for drawing. It's finding those secret key presses, when to hold shift, when to hold control, those kind of things. But there aren't many tools needed to draw a gauge really. Some straight lines and some arcs normally does it. And the arcs is best drawn by drawing two coaxial circles, one inside the other, and it cuts it out. If you want to get a transparency working, if you do, let's do a quick demo for you. So just a quick demo to show the kind of things you can do with it. Let's do a circle from roughly the centre, and I'll fill that with the foreground colour. And then we'll do the same again. We'll draw another ellipse somewhere here. This time I'm going to fill it with the background colour. So if I do that, what I can do now is press delete on the keyboard, and that selected area is cut out completely. So that's a transparency. There's an area that we can see through there. Can't see through this, so that's how our transparency works. So it's really about drawing one shape over another and then deleting one of the shape, and it works a bit like a cookie cutter, cut straight through. Okay, best of luck. Have a look at GIMP. It's free and it's wonderful.